Good day, folks. Mr. Nice here. Today we're going to explore turning a shape into a form using line and using a gradation of color. So I've got here the tools you'll need. You need a pencil, one colored pencil, an eraser, ruler would be helpful, scissors optional. All right, so let's get started. What are we trying to make? Ta-da! So we're trying to make a sphere look three-dimensional. It's kind of called op art or optical illusion art, and this will help you with a lot of the projects we have, whether it's color or not. So how do we get from a sheet of paper to that? I'll take you through it step by step. So here's my 8.5 by 11 copy paper. Most of your sketchbooks or notebooks will probably be about the same size. The first thing we're going to do, since I already know that from here to here is 8.5, look at that right there on the half mark. All I have to do is measure this way for now. So I take my regular pencil and I'm going to line up. On some rulers it starts at the edge, but on this one it starts at that first big line, and I'm going to make a mark every 1 inch, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and here's the tricky part, 8.5, because we want it to be a square, right? Now instead of flipping my paper, I'm just going to slide straight down and do the same thing here at the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.5. And I'm going to connect those lines. And you might want to draw lightly for now. I'm going to probably draw heavy just so you can see it. But for you, draw lightly so that it's easier for you to erase, because we will do a bit of erasing eventually. Oh, and something else that might be helpful in this assignment is a circle that's about that big. So you could use a coffee can, you could use a compass if you wanted to, whatever works for you. And don't forget, if still images and words work better for you than video, there will be a link in the lesson to a slideshow. It takes you step by step too. So I've got that 8.5. If I wanted to, I could take my scissors and cut that off so that I get my perfect square. You don't have to. I'm going to do it just so that what I showed you I was going to make, I'm actually going to make. Step 2, rotate 90 degrees. And once again, I'm going to mark every inch. And remember, some rulers start at the 0 here, but mine starts right here at this line. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And the ½ inch should fall right there on the edge of the paper if I did it right. I'm going to slide down. Do the same thing down here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. ½ inch falls on the edge of the paper. And connect the dots, all right? Top to bottom. Like I said, I would draw lighter than this, just so that you can erase it easier. I'm doing it so it shows up better in the video. Almost there. Alright, so that's the tough part, the grid. Alright, I'm going to grab a circle and trace it. So we've got a laser cutter here at school, and I can cut out stuff with it like wood, and I'm going to go with this size. You could do a little smaller if you wanted to, your call. I'm going to put it on here and trace it. And it doesn't have to be perfectly centered. As long as it's close, you're good. Bam. Alright. I'm going to give you guys a chance to catch up. And I'm going to stop the video and then start fresh when I mark off stuff. Welcome back, folks. So, next step after we've got the measuring and we've got the circle in there. If you remember the shading spheres we started off with, the lines that went across the circle did not go straight across. Nope, they curved. So I'm going to do the same thing with this. I'm going to do it one line at a time, just so you can see. Now you could erase all of them and try to do it back, but I found that sometimes students get confused that way. So we'll do it the easy way. So you can use the eraser on your thing, or one of these big erasers. And if you picked up one of the packs from school, you probably got one this size or half this size. So let's get started. I'm going to take this line that connects from right here to right there, and I'm going to bend it out, right? Like if I took a line of string and pushed it this way, same thing. So you can either draw the line first and erase the other one, or you can erase it first and then draw it. I'm going to draw it first. So I'm going to take this line right here, and it's now going to be curved. And it's still hit the same intersection, right? Then I come back in and erase what used to be there. All right, you can see that the straight line has now been pushed over and curves to give the feel of this being an actual sphere instead of a flat shape. Same thing with my next line. I'm going to curve it away from the center. You can see I didn't make mine perfect the first time either, so if you need to do it more than once, that's okay. Important part is that it still intersects the same spot as the original line. So now I'm going to get rid of that original line. There we go. Alright, next line. When we get close to the center, you can go one way or the other if it's right smack dab. This one's still a little bit to the left, so I'm going to curve this one out. I'm going to draw lighter this time, use my brain, so that it's easier to erase this time if I mess up. Alright, so I'm going to erase a little bit of that. Alright, so now I've replaced this line right here with this one, so I need to get rid of the original. Let's see if the big eraser works any better. A little bit. And it's got a pointy edge, so that helps out. Alright, so now once we cross over the middle, we're going to start curving that way. Alright, so this line right here is going to curve this way. So now I'm going to erase this original line because I've replaced it with this curved version. Right. And I would put some theme music in the background, but if I did, that would compete with whatever you're listening to, because I'm guessing you might be listening to some music while you're multitasking. I do the same. Alright, so go back and bring this line back. Alright, so it's kind of like if somebody took the bars in a cell and pulled them apart, right? So, got two more lines, this one and this one, to curve out that way. Always want to take them to that very edge where they originally went, right? So now they got the curve, gonna get rid of the straight. And if your paper gets a little messy, it's not a big deal because we're gonna be going over a lot of this with color. One more right here. Now it gets tricky when you get close to the edge like this one, or you'll see later with this one. You still need to curve it some, so I'm going to take the straight line, curve it almost to the edge of my sphere or my circle. So now I got my new curved line that connects where the old one is going to used to be. So get rid of this and this and that. Ta-da! So I know you can still see these lines in the middle, so I'm gonna clean them up better when we finish the end, because I still gotta do the ones going this way. So to make it easier on myself, I'm gonna rotate my paper 90 degrees, and you're starting to see it already looks kind of like a basketball, right? Imagine that. So once again, straight line. Oh, I'm sorry. Don't forget the little tiny one at the edge. All right, so that one's so close, I'm just gonna barely change it. All right, it's gonna be hard to tell. In fact, I need maybe a freshly sharpened pencil. That's something else you might need. Pencil sharpener might be helpful. So from here to here, that line's still gonna be there, but it's so close. I'm gonna erase it first this time. Reinforce that outside, and then tiny curved line. I know it doesn't look a lot different. It's really tough when it's close to the edge. So if you can, when you do your circle, try not to get them lined up too close with the line on the edge. So easier, let's do this line right here and pull it that way. So I'm going to curve it out. And then erase the original straight line. So always make sure that the new line connects to the exact same spot as the original straight line. And the reason we really need it to connect to those same spots, is if you don't, the pattern will be off and your checkerboard will look not how you want it to look. Alright, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4 more lines to curve. I'm going to take this one right here and curve it that way. I'll turn that a little better. So I usually find the more I do something, the better I get at it. Just like sports, you're practicing, you get better at your shot. Same thing here in art. The more you do it, the better you get at it. Alright, 1, 2, 3 more lines. Since we've crossed the middle section, I'm going to make this one go the other way. So I'm going to take this straight line and bend it out. Clean it up a little bit. And then get rid of that original first line. Two more. So take this straight line. We're going to start here where it hits. Right, if it helps you make a dot, you can. That's up to you. I'm going to curve it out. And then erase that original. One more. Take this straight line that connects there to there and bend it out. Clean it up a little bit. Alright, so now I erase the original straight line. And that's that part. I'm going to pause it and start showing you how to mark off where the color is going to go. Alright, so before I start getting in here with the color, right, I'm going to use blue just like I did on the one I showed you. Right, this is where we're headed. I find it better idea to mark off where the color is going to go first so I don't accidentally color the wrong square. So you could use X's, you could use circles, whatever. That's up to you. So I'm going to start right here. I'm going to make a little X, skip a square, little X, skip a square, little X. Just like a checkerboard or a chessboard, correct? Now above and below it, it's going to be alternating, right? So since I got one here, I'm going to have one in between these two. You don't want two squares with X's up against each other, except when it enters the sphere, right? So since this is part of this rectangle, or this former rectangle, there's going to be an X in here too. Alright, so I'm going to start again over here, X, and this is where it gets tricky, right? X, space, X, and since this is part of this, the X goes in there too. This is both going to be white, so we got an X. And I know it gets tricky in here, but you'll be able to tell if it's right or not on the outside. If it doesn't match up with the alternating pattern, you got to redo it. So skip one, X, 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 X. And this is part of this, so there's an X in there. X over here. Skip one. Since this is part of this, they're both going to have X's. Skip one, X. Skip one, X. Skip one. That little tiny section, this is part of this, right? So there's a little X in there and an X there. Go slide down, X. Skip these two, X. Skip, X. Skip, X. And since this is part of that, it gets an X too. Skip, X. Slide down, skip one, right? Space there, X here. And since this corner right here, this tiny little corner is going to have an X in it too. Skip this, X. Skip this, X. Skip this, X. Down here, just like before, on an alternating pattern, X, space, X. That little tiny square is going to get some X in it. Nothing there, X, and this is part of this one. Nothing, X, nothing, X. Almost done. Down here, X, skip, X, skip, X, skip, X. So, you should end up with something like this eventually, and I'm going to show you how to get there. But you can see that the pattern on the outside looks just like a checkerboard. It's just when it gets in here that it gets a little funky. Alright. I'm going to show you how to color the outside sections. And I would go in and I would color all the outside ones first, intensely, right? Go ahead and do all these ones that are outside the circle first. Make them real intense. Then come in and do the slightly shaded ones, right? And it's going to get lighter as it goes to the middle, because just like on this sphere is white, light, medium, dark, you're going to have white, light, medium, dark as it gets to the outside edge. And this is going to be what used to be up in the corner in our sphere shading is going to be right smack dab in the middle on this one. All right. So I'm going to show you what I mean by intensely colored. I'm going to slide it over here so you can see. This is not what we want. We want to push down a little bit more. Look at that. Look at that difference. Oh my God. So I'm going to go right up to the edges first, and then work my way inside that rectangle or square. If you picked up one of those packets, you got some good quality colored pencils. So it should make your job easier. So be careful when you're sweeping it off, because you might get color on the next square. So once again, good, right? Bad, right? You want that intense color on all these rectangles that go outside of this. So I'm gonna put the camera on time lapse so you can see me do it and not have to wait an hour to watch it. So I'm gonna pause this one and start a fresh one. Welcome back. Alright, so as you can see, I cut off the time lapse just so you wouldn't have to watch me do the whole outside. But every square outside of that circle is intensely colored. Inside, we're going to go from dark to medium to light to white. So if you remember that from the shading, I'm going to show you. So So imagine that there's a flashlight going right down on this basketball or sphere or soccer ball, whatever you want to call it. And we would have white, light, medium, dark. Right? So anything that's outside, which is close to these rectangles, right, it's going to be pretty similarly colored around those edges. Then it's going to a little bit lighter pressure, a little bit lighter, and then nothing at all in the middle. And if you've got a square in the middle that happens to be a colored one, you're just going to gradually go to white in the middle, right? Because we're going to try to eventually get something like that. So let's get busy. On the edges, just like I was saying, since this is part of this and it's near the edge, it's going to be dark. I'm going to get to medium, to light, and leave it white. Right, so if you want to start the other way so that you can come back and make it darker, that's up to you. Might be a good idea. So I'm going to try that on here. So since my middle section is going to be white, this is going to be light, right? I don't have to put a whole lot of pressure on here. And just like regular pencil, if I decide it's not dark enough, I can always come back and make it darker. It's harder to ease up on it, right? So this one right near the edge, that's definitely going to be dark. This one is going to transition from dark to medium to almost that color, right? So let's start here at the edge. This little tiny section is part of this rectangle, so it's super intense or dark. This one's going to start out that way, but as it goes towards the middle, it's going to get lighter. So I got this intensity, and I'm going to slowly put less pressure on the pencil until it gets to right there, right? And you notice that the fade is gradual, right? I'll show you an example of how you don't want to do it. Right? So this is good right here. It's dark. You don't want to go super intense and then just do that. You don't want to be able to see that line. Right? You want it to fade gradually. So you put a little bit less pressure as you go in. And if it helps you to draw those sections in there so you know where to put dark, medium, light, and white, that's up to you. You can always erase it later. So I can still kind of see that line, so I'm going to go the other way a little bit and feather it, almost like cross-hatching. Or swirling. Your call. Right? This one, since it's right up on the edge, intense or dark. This one is going to be kind of medium to light, right? And I'm not going straight across, I'm kind of curving it as a color. to this outside edge, definitely going to be intense. Or dark, as some people refer to it. And if you chose a really light color like yellow or something, this is probably going to be a little bit more difficult. The darker colors like purple and blues, reds, greens, those are going to be easier for you. You'll find a little corner here. This one's also part of this, so it's going to be intense. This one's part of this one, so it's going to be intense. Just slightly as it gets too close to that edge. Same thing here, this one's going to be mostly intense. And you can erase color pencil a little bit, it's not perfect, but if you do go too dark, you might be able to lighten it up a little bit using your eraser. Alright, so for another example of a gradation from medium to light white, I'm going to start here, and you can see how I can just ease up on that pressure as it gets close to the edge. All right. Start with a lot of pressure and ease up as it gets closer to that center. Let's do this one here too. And when you get all of these done, I still like to step back from it a little bit and take a look. So if you need to prop it up on your desk and go to the other side of the room and look at it from there, that might help. Because really, when people look at your artwork, are they going to be a foot away from it when they look at it, or are they going to be looking at it from across the room? Almost done here. Start intense. And fade to the middle. I can already see that I'm probably going to come back and make this one more intense. This one is part of this, so it's going to be intense. Yep, definitely going to need to come back here and make that slightly more intense. I don't want this line, I want it to fade from intensity to light. White, light, medium, dark. If I go outside the edge, like right there, I can always come back and clean it up. Same thing here with these lines here in the middle. That's why you want to draw lightly when you're first doing the whole thing. So I went a little heavy-handed with this one. You can see in this one how it really lightens up as it gets to the middle. So maybe somewhere in between the two is what you want. And like I said, if it's too intense for you, you could lighten it up a little bit. With your eraser. Sorry. So you decide how far to go with intensity, but it should get lighter as it gets to the middle. Hit me up if you got any questions. Submit it on Canvas with a good pick later.